Valentina Melrose woke up on a Thursday morning in the quaint village of Willowbrook with a rare feeling of hope. The upcoming bank holiday weekend promised 4 whole days away from her demanding role as head accountant at a local construction firm, Stonebridge Builders. Stretching luxuriously in her bedroom, she smiled at the thought of her long-planned retreat. Her very own countryside cottage. 2 years prior, Valentina had purchased the modest property on the outskirts of the village, using the money from selling her late grandmother's flat in downtown Cambridge. Family members had scoffed at her choice. A rustic timber cabin surrounded by towering oaks and fragrant pines seemed a poor substitute for a city apartment with all its conveniences. But Valentina was steadfast. Her children needed fresh air and open skies, and she craved a quiet sanctuary where she could lose herself in a book without the constant drone of traffic or the blaring of impatient drivers. The plot was small but charming, 6 acres of greenery with a weathered picket fence painted a buttery cream. Over the last 2 years, Valentina and her children had transformed the place. She'd planted a riot of blooms in the flower beds, while her son Arthur, a lanky boy of 14 with untidy chestnut hair and an impish grin, had crafted a treehouse nestled among the branches of a towering oak. Her daughter, 11-year-old Sophie, with her soft hazel eyes and a penchant for wearing vintage floral dresses paired with worn leather boots, had turned the garden gazebo into a cozy reading nook, draping it in fairy lights and cushions. Valentina's husband, Oliver, rarely joined their rural escapades. Preferring the company of his mates at the local pub or the simple comfort of his armchair, he often left the children's countryside adventures to their mother. When Oliver announced on Monday that he'd be away on a business trip to Bristol all week, Valentina was secretly relieved. No grumbles about muddy boots or pointless gardening would fill her ears. The children, too, were glad to have their mum's full attention without their father's usual criticisms. On Wednesday evening, the house buzzed with activity. Sophie darted around, stuffing her backpack with books, paints, and her portable easel, her floral dress fluttering with every excited movement. Arthur was busy outside, checking fishing gear by the pond nearby, hoping to catch something bigger than the usual shiners. "Mom, can I invite Daniel?" His mum said it's fine, Arthur called from the back door, eyes sparkling with anticipation. Of course, but tell him the cottage is still chilly, and the sauna hasn't been lit yet. He should bring warm clothes, Valentina replied with a smile. Looking in the mirror, she noted the traces of time on her face. At 42, her skin still held a youthful glow. Her brown hair streaked faintly with silver but neatly styled. Thanks to her morning runs through the village park, her figure remained slender, a subtle allure enhanced by the soft lines of her cream blouse tucked into fitted jeans and the delicate silver necklace resting at her collarbone. Oliver sometimes teased her for taking life too seriously, but Valentina believed discipline was the key to happiness. By midday Thursday, all her reports were submitted, her desk cleared. She picked up the children from school, Sophie with her oversized rucksack, Daniel clutching a sports bag, and Arthur with his fishing rod propped over his shoulder. The drive to the cottage took about an hour, the car winding through lanes bordered by blooming hedgerows and fields of rapeseed. As they turned onto Pinecone Lane, the familiar cream fence and wooden gate with the number 15 came into view. But then Valentina slammed the brakes. Parked in her driveway were 3 vehicles: a battered burgundy Ford, a scratched white hatchback, and a sleek black SUV she couldn't quite place. Smoke curled lazily from the chimney, and voices carried across the garden. "What's going on here?" Sophie whispered, clutching her mother's hand. Tightly, Valentina stepped out, heart pounding, determined to stay composed. Approaching the gate, she saw her mother-in-law, Tamar, seated at the garden table surrounded by relatives, her sister, a thin woman named Nina with sharp eyes, and Tamar's nephew Victor with his family. They sipped tea as if they owned the place, while meat sizzled on the barbecue. "Tamar," Valentina called calmly, "what are you doing on my property?" Tamar looked up, her fiery red hair gleaming even in the soft spring sun, and gave Valentina a glare that chilled her. "We're just enjoying the weekend, dear. Glad you could join us. Make some fresh tea, will you?" Valentina swallowed rising anger. "This is my cottage. You never told me you'd be here. It's family property," Nina snapped. "Oliver invested money. We all have rights." Valentina shook her head, her voice firm. "I bought this place with my own money from selling my grandmother's flat. The papers are in my name." Victor, lounging in a crumpled tee and shorts, stood and smirked. "Look, the kids are happy, the grill's hot. Let's not ruin the mood over paperwork. But Valentina's resolve hardened. This is private property. You've no right to be here without my consent. Sophie tugged at her sleeve wide-eyed. Mom, can we leave? I'm scared. Tamar laughed coldly. Scared of your own family? You always make a fuss. Valentina's voice rose. You invaded my home without warning. This isn't right. The tension thickened like the smoke from the barbecue. Oliver's name hung unspoken but heavy in the air. Valentina called him. No answer. Then finally, a curt voice, Val, what now? Her husband's excuses rang hollow. His betrayal evident as he admitted giving his mother keys, knowing full well she and the children were coming. A cruel joke at Valentina's expense. With the afternoon sun casting long shadows, the battle lines were drawn. Valentina faced her mother-in-law's cold defiance, the relatives' smirks, and the deafening silence of a husband who had chosen sides. The garden, once a haven of peace, had become a battleground, and as Valentina stood there, the soft rustle of the wind through the pines whispered a promise. This was only the beginning. Something darker simmered beneath the surface, waiting to erupt. The cottage door creaked open behind her, and a chill ran down her spine. The evening air hung heavy with tension as Valentina led her children inside the cottage, the faint scent of pine mingling uneasily with the aroma of the barbecue still wafting from the garden. Sophie clung to her mother's side, her floral dress slightly rumpled, boots scuffed from the dusty driveway, and cheeks flushed with a mixture of fear and frustration. Arthur, tall and lanky in his worn denim jacket, held Daniel's hand tightly. Daniel, a quiet boy with sandy hair and an earnest expression, clearly out of his depth amidst the family storm behind them. The voices on the veranda continued, sharp and dismissive. Tamar's laughter, brittle and triumphant, sliced through the quiet. Valentina could hear Victor's camera clicking as he recorded every heated word, his smirk growing wider with each passing moment. Inside, Valentina's cottage was a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Warm light spilled from the fireplace, casting flickering shadows on the polished wooden floor, and the soft cushions piled high in Sophie's reading nook. On the kitchen table, a plate of homemade shortbread sat waiting, a small comfort in the growing storm. Mom, what are we going to do? Sophie's voice trembled as she pulled a biscuit from the plate, her eyes searching her mother's face. Valentina knelt to meet her daughter's gaze, brushing a stray lock of hair behind Sophie's ear. We're going to stay strong, sweetheart. This is our home and no one's going to take it away from us. Arthur sat at the table, his fingers drumming nervously. Dad's supposed to be on that business trip. Why's he letting them do this? It's like he's helping them. Valentina's jaw tightened. I don't know, Arthur. But I promise I'll figure it out. Suddenly the front door rattled with a sharp knock. All three children jumped. Valentina's heart sank. Who is it? She asked, steadying her voice. The door creaked open just a crack, and Tamar's voice sneered, time to talk, Valentina. Outside. Alone, Valentina stood, smoothing the front of her cream blouse, the soft fabric hugging her curves just enough to hint at her strength without arrogance. Her dark hair caught the light, strands falling loose around her determined face. No, she said firmly. Not today. Come on, don't be like that, Tamar taunted. You think you can just boss everyone around because of some papers? This family has been here longer than you've been alive. Valentina's eyes narrowed. This family doesn't get to decide what's mine. A sudden sharp crack sounded from the garden. Arthur and Daniel rushed to the window to see Victor waving his phone, obviously live-streaming the confrontation. Sophie buried her face in Valentina's side. Victor, stop that. Valentina hissed. But the nephew only laughed, clearly reveling in the drama. The moment shattered the fragile calm. Valentina's phone buzzed again. It was Oliver. She ignored it. Instead, she turned to her children, her voice soft but resolute. Let's get ready for bed. Tomorrow we start fresh. Together. As the children reluctantly moved to their rooms, Valentina caught her reflection in the hallway mirror. The tired eyes, the clenched jaw, the faint crease of a smile that dared to hope. She was no longer just a mother or a wife. Today she was a fighter. Through the thin walls, Tamar's voice rose in a harsh argument with Nina, their words dripping venom and old grudges. But Valentina's mind was elsewhere, racing through possibilities, plans, and the bitter knowledge that this was more than a family dispute. It was a calculated power play. Her phone lit up again. This time, a cryptic message from an unknown number. Asterisk, not everything is as it seems. Watch your back. Asterisk, Valentina's breath caught. She typed back quickly, who is this? No reply outside. The night deepened, shadows lengthening and secrets thickening in the cool spring air. And somewhere, beyond the garden fence, a hidden truth waited. One that could change everything. The battle for the cottage had only just begun. Morning light filtered softly through the lace curtains, casting delicate patterns across the worn wooden floorboards of Valentina's cottage. The silence inside was a fragile thing, punctuated only by the faint rustle of Sophie's dress as she tiptoed down the stairs, her slender fingers clutching a well-worn copy of Pride and Prejudice. Her hazel eyes, still heavy with sleep, scanned the room for her mother. Valentina sat by the kitchen window, dressed simply in a fitted white shirt and navy trousers, her dark hair loosely gathered at the nape of her neck. A silver bracelet caught the sunlight as she cradled a steaming mug of tea, her gaze distant yet sharp. The events of the previous day weighed heavily on her, but beneath the weariness lay an unyielding resolve. Arthur appeared next, his tall frame slightly hunched from restless sleep. His unruly chestnut hair contrasted with the crisp blue jumper he wore, and his keen green eyes held a mixture of anger and confusion. Daniel followed, quieter, clutching a small fishing lure in his hand, a silent reminder of simpler days. Morning, Valentina said softly, her voice steady but warm. Did you sleep well? Sophie nodded, settling beside her mother. Mum, can I wear the blue dress today? The one with the lace trim? It makes me feel brave. Valentina smiled, a flicker of tenderness lighting her features. Of course, darling. Bravery suits you. The cottage was still theirs, at least for now, but outside the windows the world felt charged with unease. Through the kitchen door, muffled voices drifted from the garden. Tamar and her sister Nina, their sharp tones cutting through the morning calm like a blade. Valentina rose, smoothing her shirt, and moved toward the door. She hesitated a moment, then stepped outside onto the porch, the worn wooden steps creaking under her feet. Tamar, she called, voice cool and steady, we need to talk. Properly. Tamar's eyes gleamed with defiance, her fiery hair pulled into a tight bun that only accentuated her sharp features. She leaned against the fence, arms crossed, dressed in a tailored burgundy blouse and a skirt that whispered of old-fashioned dignity. Talk? Tamar scoffed. I'm all ears. Valentina's gaze flicked to Victor, who lounged nearby in a rumpled shirt and shorts, phone poised to record. He caught her eye and gave a lazy smirk, as if daring her to disrupt the spectacle. Ignoring him, Valentina began. This isn't just about property or family pride. It's about respect. For me, for my children. Your presence here without permission isn't respect. It's an invasion. Nina stepped forward, her thin frame and sharp gaze a perfect foil to Tamar's fiery demeanor. Respect? You think respect comes with a deed? Family means more than papers, Valentina. You'll learn that soon enough. Valentina's jaw tightened. Family means love and support, not control or manipulation. The air thickened with unspoken histories, with grudges passed like heirlooms through generations. Suddenly, a sharp snap echoed from the garden shed. All eyes turned as a pair of hands emerged from behind the door, clutching a folded letter. Valentina's heart raced as Victor sauntered over, waving the letter like a prize. Found this tucked away in the shed. Thought you'd want to see it, Auntie Val. She took the paper gingerly, unfolding it to reveal a faded handwritten note, an old will, bearing a signature she didn't recognize and a date suspiciously recent. What's this? She demanded. Tamar's face paled for a fraction of a second before she masked it with a sneer. Old business. Irrelevant. Valentina's eyes narrowed. It's not. This changes everything. Victor's camera clicked relentlessly as the drama intensified, but Valentina barely noticed. Her mind raced, piecing together a puzzle that suddenly seemed far bigger and far darker than a simple family feud. And then, from the depths of the garden, a distant howl shattered the morning calm. A dog barking fiercely, warning of an approaching storm. Valentina folded the letter carefully, her voice low but fierce. We're not done yet. Not by a long shot. Behind the walls of the cottage, the children listened in silence, sensing the weight of secrets about to unravel, unaware that the battle for their home was about to spiral into territory none of them had ever imagined. Outside, the shadows lengthened, and the mystery deepened. The late morning sun climbed higher, casting a golden glow over the garden where Valentina stood clutching the faded letter. Her fingers trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the surge of determination coursing through her. The mysterious will hinted at secrets long buried, threatening to upend everything she thought she knew about her husband's family and their claim on the cottage. Tamar, Valentina said, voice steady but edged with steel, this document could prove that the property isn't family-owned as you claim. It might even invalidate your presence here. Tamar's eyes flickered with unease for the briefest moment before she masked it with a cold smile. You're grasping at shadows, dear. That letter is forged, just like your claim to this place. Valentina met her gaze without flinching. Then let's put it to the test. I'll have it examined. Until then, I expect you and your family to respect our space. Victor, still recording, chuckled darkly. Looks like Auntie Val has more fight than we thought. This is getting good. Arthur stepped forward, his voice surprisingly steady for a boy his age. Mum's right. We shouldn't have to fight for our own home. Sophie, cheeks flushed but chin raised, added, and you're scaring us. This isn't how families behave. Tamar's lips curled into a sneer. You'll learn respect soon enough. This isn't over. Suddenly, a sharp bark pierced the tension. From the thicket bordering the garden, a large black Labrador emerged, its collar jingling as it bounded toward them. Behind it, a tall figure appeared. A man in his early 40s, dressed casually but with an air of authority. Sorry to interrupt, he said, voice calm but commanding. I'm Detective Inspector James Harper. I've been following this family's disputes for a while now. The letter you have, Ms. Melrose, is of particular interest. Valentina blinked, stunned. Detective? How? Harper held up a hand. Let's just say some things have a way of catching up with us. I have reason to believe this document is connected to a wider investigation into forged wills and property disputes in this region. Tamar's face paled. You have no right here. I have every right to be here, Harper replied evenly. And I suggest we all cooperate. Valentina felt a rush of vindication. The tangled web of lies and power plays was starting to unravel, and help had arrived in the most unexpected form. As the detective began to question Tamar and her relatives, Valentina took a deep breath, her eyes meeting those of her children. We're going to get through this, she whispered. Together. But as the sun dipped toward the horizon, a shadow still lingered, one that no investigation could yet reach. And in the fading light, a silent watcher disappeared into the woods, clutching a phone and a secret that could shatter everything Valentina was fighting for. The next chapter was coming, darker and more dangerous than anything they had faced so far. The fading light of the afternoon cast long shadows across the garden, as Detective Inspector James Harper methodically questioned Tamar and her relatives. His calm but incisive manner unsettled the group, their earlier bravado replaced with guarded glances and clipped answers. Valentina stood close, her posture firm, the soft fabric of her cream blouse stretched slightly over her determined shoulders, her navy trousers pressed and neat, a silent statement of her newfound strength. Arthur and Sophie watched from the porch, the tension in their young faces eased just a fraction by the presence of the detective. Daniel sat quietly beside them, his fingers fiddling nervously with a fishing lure, as if holding on to something innocent could tame the storm swirling around them. Harper's gaze finally settled on the faded letter in Valentina's hands. This document was filed under suspicious circumstances, he explained. It appears to be a forgery, designed to confuse rightful ownership. We'll be taking it for forensic analysis. Tamar's lips pressed into a thin line. You're meddling in family affairs, she hissed, but her voice lacked conviction. Family or not, Harper replied, breaking the law is breaking the law. Victor, still filming, lowered his phone, sensing the shift in power. Valentina allowed herself a small, victorious smile. The fight was far from over, but the tide had turned. As Harper prepared to leave, he pulled Valentina aside. Be careful, he warned quietly. Not everyone will take kindly to your pursuit of the truth. She nodded, the weight of his words settling heavily. I'm ready. The detective's car disappeared down the lane, leaving a heavy silence. Suddenly, a chilling laughter broke the quiet. From the shadowed edge of the garden, a figure stepped forward. A woman in her 60s dressed in dark, flowing clothes that seemed to absorb the last rays of sunlight. Her sharp eyes gleamed with malicious amusement. Tamar's not the only one with secrets, she said, voice dripping with menace. You've stirred a hornet's nest, Valentina. Valentina squared her shoulders, meeting the woman's gaze with fierce resolve. Bring it on. But deep inside, a flicker of doubt whispered, what if this was only the beginning of a far darker game? And as night fell over Willowbrook, the cottage stood silent, a fragile sanctuary shadowed by secrets and threats yet to come. The battle for home, family, and truth was only just beginning. The chill of dusk wrapped around the cottage like a tightening cloak as Valentina faced the mysterious woman emerging from the shadows. Her deep green eyes, sharp as a hawk's, glinted beneath streaks of silver hair that cascaded over a flowing black cloak. There was an unsettling confidence in her stance, as if she carried the weight of countless battles fought behind those calm, calculating eyes. I'm Eleanor, the woman said smoothly, voice low but commanding. And I've been watching this family for years. Valentina's heart quickened, but she kept her voice steady. Watching? Why? What do you want? Eleanor smiled, a slow, knowing curve of her lips that sent a shiver down Valentina's spine. To warn you. You're poking around in dangerous waters. Some truths are best left buried. Behind them, the last golden light slipped away, leaving the garden bathed in shadows. Sophie clutched her mother's hand tightly, her blue lace dress whispering softly as she moved closer. Arthur's jaw was set, protective, while Daniel shifted uneasily beside the porch steps. Valentina squared her shoulders. I'm not afraid of the past. And I won't let anyone take what's mine. Eleanor's eyes glittered with something unreadable. Bravery is admirable, but it can be reckless. You're up against more than just family squabbles. Before Valentina could respond, a sudden rustle came from the thicket nearby. All heads turned as a sleek black cat darted through the underbrush, its eyes glowing eerily in the twilight. Eleanor chuckled softly. Watch your back, Valentina. This is just the beginning. The woman's words hung in the cool night air like a dark promise. Inside the cottage, Valentina closed the door with a decisive click, locking it behind her. She turned to her children, brushing a stray curl from Sophie's forehead and ruffling Arthur's hair. We'll face whatever comes, she whispered. Together. But as the wind whispered through the trees outside, carrying secrets and shadows, Valentina couldn't shake the feeling that unseen eyes were watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And somewhere in the darkness Eleanor's laughter echoed, a haunting reminder that some battles would be fought not just with words or wills, but with shadows. The fight for the cottage, for her family, was far from over. The night settled over Willowbrook like a velvet curtain, thick and impenetrable. Inside the cottage, Valentina sat at the worn oak kitchen table, her fingers wrapped tightly around a steaming cup of tea. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows on the walls, mirroring the turmoil swirling inside her. Her blouse, soft and slightly loose, hinted at the graceful curves beneath, a quiet reminder of the woman's strength and vulnerability woven together. Sophie lay curled on the sofa, her blue lace dress rumpled from the day's anxieties, eyes heavy with sleep yet restless. Arthur paced near the window, the faint moonlight catching the unruly chestnut of his hair, and the sharp lines of his determined face. Daniel sat quietly in the corner, his small hands clutching a book, trying to lose himself in its pages but unable to escape the tension that filled the room. Valentina's phone vibrated sharply, breaking the silence. She glanced at the screen. An unknown number. With a deep breath she answered. Valentina, a low, distorted voice whispered. You don't know who you're dealing with. Stop digging, or the consequences will be more than just words. A cold sweat broke out on her forehead. Who is this? What do you want? The line went dead. Her heart pounded, but her resolve only hardened. We won't be intimidated, she said aloud, more to herself than anyone else. Suddenly, a sharp knock echoed at the front door. Valentina moved cautiously, every muscle tense. Peering through the peephole, she saw a figure cloaked in darkness, face obscured by a hood. Who is it? Arthur whispered behind her. Valentina's voice was steady. I don't know. But we're not opening the door. The knock came again, more insistent. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out, plunging the cottage into darkness. A collective breath was held. Sophie whimpered softly. Valentina lit a candle, its flame trembling but steady. From the shadows came a voice, soft, chilling and unmistakably Eleanor's. You think you're safe now? The night is long, Valentina. And so is the reach of those who want this place. And you gone? Valentina stood tall, candle in hand, eyes blazing in the dim light. Try me. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, carrying secrets and threats, and deep in the darkness, the true battle for Willowbrook was only just beginning. The candlelight flickered wildly, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls of the cottage, as Valentina steadied her breath. Her fingers curled tightly around the brass candlestick, knuckles white, yet her gaze remained fierce and unyielding. The soft rustle of fabric behind her told her the children were close, Sophie clutching at her sleeve, Arthur standing alert by the window, and Daniel peeking nervously from the stairwell. "Eleanor," Valentina called into the darkness, her voice cutting through the stillness like a blade. "If you want a fight, you've found one. But know this is my home. My family. And I won't back down." A slow, mocking clap echoed softly from the shadows, the sound both chilling and oddly elegant. "Brave words," Eleanor's voice purred, stepping into the dim glow. Her dark cloak trailed behind her like a shadow itself, and her sharp eyes glinted with a dangerous amusement. "But bravery without caution is a fool's game." Valentina's eyes narrowed. "Who are you really? Why are you doing this?" Eleanor smiled, a cold, haunting curve. "Let's just say I represent interests far beyond petty family disputes. There are debts to be settled, and you, Valentina, have stumbled into a web far more tangled than you realize." The children stirred anxiously, but Valentina raised a hand, silencing their fears. "Whatever game you're playing," she said, stepping forward, "I'm not afraid to play along. But I play to win." Eleanor's laughter was like the crack of dry ice, sharp and unsettling. "Good. Because losing isn't an option for me." Suddenly, a sharp crash came from the kitchen, the back door swinging open in the gusting wind. A dark figure slipped inside, moving swiftly toward Valentina. In the 10 seconds that followed, every heartbeat thundered in the silence. Then the figure stopped, revealing itself to be Detective Inspector Harper. Breathless but steadied. "I'm sorry to interrupt," he said, eyes flicking between the two women, "but you're going to need protection. This goes deeper than any of us thought." Valentina exchanged a glance with Eleanor. An unspoken truce in the eye of the storm outside. The wind howled louder, and the night stretched on, thick with danger and unspoken truths. The fight for Willowbrook, and for Valentina's very survival, was only just beginning. The room seemed to hold its breath as Valentina, Eleanor, and Detective Harper faced one another beneath the trembling candlelight. The air was thick with unspoken threats and uneasy alliances, the shadows on the walls twisting like specters of the battles yet to come. Harper's gaze was sharp, his voice low but urgent. "There's more at stake here than a family dispute. Forged documents, property scams, blackmail, the kind of things that can ruin lives. And from what I've gathered, Eleanor is connected to some of the key players." Eleanor's eyes flashed, but she said nothing, her silence speaking volumes. Valentina's heart hammered, but she forced herself steady. "So what now? How do we fight something this big?" Harper stepped closer, lowering his voice. "We gather evidence. We watch each other's backs. And we don't trust anyone blindly." Sophie peeked from behind Valentina's skirt, her blue dress brushing softly against her mother's leg. Arthur's protective stance softened as he took in the gravity of the situation. Daniel, clutching his book like a shield, looked to Valentina for reassurance. Valentina knelt, brushing a stray curl from Sophie's face. "We'll get through this together." Eleanor's smirk returned, though it was tempered with respect. "You're tougher than I expected. Perhaps this will be interesting after all." A sudden sharp knock at the door startled them all. Harper moved swiftly, opening it to reveal a young courier holding a small package. Valentina took it cautiously. Inside was a single envelope, sealed with a dark crimson wax stamp bearing an unfamiliar emblem. She broke the seal and unfolded the letter. The handwriting was elegant but cold. "The past is never dead. It's not even past. Choose your next move wisely, Valentina." A chill ran through her, but she folded the letter with steady hands. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying secrets and shadows deeper into the night. Valentina glanced at her children, then at Harper and Eleanor. "This isn't just about a cottage anymore," she said quietly. "It's a war." And in the darkness beyond the garden gate, unseen eyes watched, waiting for her next move. The candlelight flickered as Valentina folded the ominous letter, its weight settling heavily in her hands. The crimson wax seal seemed to pulse faintly in the dim glow, as if holding a secret too dangerous to reveal just yet. Around her the quiet was thick with tension, Sophie's soft breathing, Arthur's clenched jaw, Daniel's wide eyes, all waiting for what would come next. Detective Harper stepped closer, voice low and steady. "This emblem. It belongs to a group involved in several property fraud cases across the county. They don't make threats lightly." Eleanor's sharp gaze lingered on the envelope. "They've been watching you, Valentina. And they're not pleased you're interfering. Valentina's fingers curled into a fist. Then they'll learn I don't scare easily. The sudden crack of thunder rolled over the countryside, rattling the windows. Outside, the wind stirred the branches, casting eerie shadows that seemed to creep closer. Harper glanced toward the door. We need to secure the place. I'll call for backup, but it might be hours before help arrives. Valentina nodded, her jaw tight. We can't leave. Not now. Eleanor's eyes softened just a fraction. I'll stay. For now. The children gathered near the fireplace, Sophie's blue lace dress shimmering faintly in the firelight, Arthur standing protectively beside her, and Daniel clutching a small wooden carving he'd found earlier. A talisman of sorts. Valentina looked at them, the fierce love in her chest battling the fear gnawing at her insides. No matter what happens, we stick together. The storm outside intensified, rain pelting the windows like 1,000 tiny fists. Shadows danced on the walls, but inside the cottage a different kind of storm was brewing, one of secrets, loyalties, and a fight for survival. And as the night deepened, Valentina realized this was more than a battle for a home. It was a battle for her family's future. Somewhere beyond the garden gate, the silent watchers moved closer, their intentions dark and deadly. The war for Willowbrook had truly begun.